Hold on.
Tell us, James, when we can start. Is James going to come back on and tell us that or not?
Hold
Yeah, he
on.
said he will.
Trying to get the
Hey,
screen.
Get all the live streams going, and
all right,
he said
great. Hey,
give
hey,
us.
everybody. Okay, here we go. Thank you, James.
You got it.
Well, Andrew's on vacation, so I get to do the intro. And I don't have any notes, so I'm going to keep it really short and sweet. Hey, everybody, Stephen Key, and today with the live licensing playbook every Wednesday, 5 p.m., 8 p.m. East Coast, we're going to talk about how to get into companies, how to license those ideas. And what's really important is that it's gotten a little bit harder today to get into companies. So every Wednesday, we're going to bring on two people from Gateway. Gateway's goal is to reach companies now, and they call companies every single day. And these guys are probably the best in the world at getting a hold of companies because it's not easy. For some reason, they're running from us now. And I think it's just all the noise out there. So we're going to break through all the clutter, all the noise, and we're going to talk about, Dana, what are we talking about today?
I think we're talking about what do you do when a company does respond and just says no, we're not interested or not interested at this time. Like how do where do you go from there? I think that's what the topic is.
Are you sure? I didn't think that was the topic. Come on, you guys. Does
I
anybody
don't.
else know are you sure that's the topic?
I think so.
I thought it was how to get someone to call you back.
Well, okay, that can be the topic too.
That can be the topic too.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, let's start with that because I think that's probably the most important thing. You reach out. So Dana, let's start with you, okay?
yeah.
Um, you've got a process.
Mm,
You've identified the right company.
mhm,
You've got everything ready. You've got your sell sheet, you got your video, you've done your homework, you made sure this is a good company, it's the right fit,
mhm.
and you start to reach out to these guys, but for some reason they're not responding. What do you do?
I keep reaching back out. I mean, it is not uncommon for me to reach out to numerous people, the same people, 4, 5, 6 times. Now, usually I don't have to do that. If I'm because it's in numbers. If I'm only reaching out to one person and that person's not responding, then I'm not doing then if I'm only reaching out to one person, then I'm not doing a good enough job because I have to reach out to numerous people in a company or that one person reach out to that one person in a couple different ways, meaning phone call, email, LinkedIn if possible.
Do we have people that are on the waiting room, you
I
guys?
think so. James, are you taking care of that?
Okay, let's find out.
Well, I'm a
I
co-host.
got it.
Okay.
You got
All
it?
right.
Okay.
So Dana, one of your goals is to reach out to, I used to tell people never do this. And so you're reaching out to multiple people
Yeah.
and you're just waiting for someone to reply back. What if 3 or 4 people reply back? What do you do then?
Oh, I talk to all of them as if the other one doesn't exist.
Hmm. So how do you pick which one to go forward with?
The one that responds to me the most. The one that's actually talking to me because I can guarantee not all of them are going to continue to talk to me. But there's going to be one person that we have dialogue back and forth. And then
Okay.
what I will do a lot of times, once I start to talk to that person back and forth 3, 4, 5 times, I can go ahead and drop the other names. Like I did hear from Mary, I heard from John,
Okay.
I heard from Bill. Would you like me to, invite them into the conversation, or do you want
Sure.
me to talk to them or whatever? But I've never, I think I've only ever had to do that one time.
Okay.
It's just like if you are licensing your product idea and what do you do if you get 3 or 4 companies interested in your product idea? It's the same exact thing because pretty much those companies are going to drop off for some reason or another, and then you're going to be left with, one company or two
Okay.
companies. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Chad, what do you do? What's your plan? Because I know you guys do things differently. Wait a minute. Let's talk about that for a minute. don't you guys have a game plan? I mean, didn't anybody give you a script? Did anybody tell you what to do?
No, we just kind of been winging it this whole time, and it's been working out so far.
Yeah.
So you're doing something different than Dana.
Yeah, we have different approaches, different personality styles. I mean, different approaches. I think ultimately what we're doing is the same thing. It's slightly tweaked a little bit, but for the most part, yeah, we're doing the same thing. I would suggest the same thing as Dana. It's a very strong thing to do multiple avenues. You should definitely do that. And I have for instance, when you're talking to multiple people. So I got into a large company for my own product. And the first person that I talked to, I believe he was like the VP of merchandise, and he passed that downward, right? He passed that down to the correct department. Well, in the meantime, someone else, equivalent to the guy he passed it down to, responded on LinkedIn. So during that communication, I think the best thing is just to be honest, because your intentions are good. So now that this guy has come on and he said, yeah, we're open to taking a look at ideas. I said, okay, well, I've already talked to so-and-so. They've passed it on to here. If you'd like to communicate back and forth with them, I can answer any questions, give any feedback. Just be honest.
Okay.
You're not trying to do anything nefarious. I mean,
All right, so go after everybody. You guys, I have to tell you, that was not the approach a couple years ago.
well, and I'd like to touch, Stephen, even be willing to change that up once you're communicating with somebody, even once you have interest. You might have a lead that you've been talking to that goes dead, that doesn't answer you. I had that happen today. I had somebody that I got a sell sheet in front of them, multiple sell sheets actually, and he didn't respond for several months. Finally, I found a backup contact, got a message back today, reviewed the products, all good and moving forward. So you don't be scared to switch it up if you're getting stagnant.
Got it. Okay, so you finally get someone does respond. All right, so how do you continue the conversation a little bit? Because they're responding. Do they say to you right away, Dana, hey, just send it over? And you told us last week when they say that, you get it to them as fast as you can
Oh yeah. Within minutes.
because they're hot.
Usually, I mean, well, it really just depends because if I'm reaching out to them on LinkedIn and they're saying, hey, send it over to me, and I'm not in front of my computer and I can't because I don't have all the stuff on my phone, but I will get it over to them within the day. As soon as I get back home, I'm going to send it over. Even the next day is okay.
All right.
But if I'm talking to them and I'm in front of my computer, I'm sending it right over. I had this happen. I reached out to a company for one of our clients. I got in touch with well, this is interesting because this happens all the time. I call the company talking to customer service. Customer service says, no, we're not open. I go to LinkedIn. I find the president of the company. I reach out to him. He responds to me within hours and said, yeah, send me over what you have. I said, do you want me? No, he doesn't give me his email yet. I said, do you want me to send it over to you through here, Messenger? I don't care how they get it, as long as they get it. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Do I have to send it through an email? And I sent it. He said, no, send it here. So I sent it through the LinkedIn. Within 2 hours, he responded and said, no, he wasn't interested. And my answer back to him was, if I have more product ideas that I think would be a good fit, can I send them your way? He wrote back, absolutely. And by the way, we're also looking for this.
Oh,
Like he told me what they were looking for. This just happened yesterday. Yeah.
okay. So Dana, when you call them, you talk to them, and when you send it, do you drop, hey, I just spoke with you, I'm such and such? I mean, do you reiterate that so you kind of, because he's getting a lot of emails. How's he going to know?
Yeah.
What's the subject line?
The subject line. Well, usually I'll tell him if I'm talking to him, if I'm talking to him on the phone, I'm going to tell him what the product category is. So I'm going to put the name of the product category in the subject line so that he sees it.
Okay.
I'm just making this up, bird cage product submission. And then if I talk to him on LinkedIn and he gave me his email, I'll let him know I just spoke with you on LinkedIn, or thank you so much for, speaking with me on LinkedIn.
Chad, you do it different though, don't you?
As far as the outreach method?
Yeah, you told me you weren't really pitching the idea. I mean, do you put in the subject line what the idea is? I mean, what do you do?
I mean, I've talked about that before, and that's I almost feel controversial talking about it because that wasn't the way that, inventRight teaches it, you know what I mean? But it seems to work for me. And the reason that I do it, the reason that I withhold more about the product is very simple. You guys spend a lot of time and effort on these marketing materials. That is what should speak for your product. So if I get into a company and he says, hey, what you got? What if I do a bad job of explaining it and he gets something in his head and writes me off immediately?
Okay.
That's kind of where my thought process is. And also, people like getting gifts. So if I bring in something to you and you don't know what it is and you get to open it and check it out, that just like piques people's curiosity.
I thought it was because of your brilliant one-line description that they were so intrigued they look at it, but you don't do it that way. Okay, fair enough.
I don't. Yeah. And then I do. I like to let those marketing materials speak for themselves, because how many times are we reviewing an applicant for Gateway where just off the gist of it, we don't get it until we see the video and we're like, oh yeah, all right, that makes sense.
Okay.
I don't want them to miss that point. I don't want them to get a pre whatever you want to call it. I don't want them to make a decision based on something without having seen the marketing materials.
Fair enough. Because that marketing material, if it's done well, it probably does all the selling that you need. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you've done that. Now we're really going to talk about what are the next steps now. They look at it, and of course they might say, hey, we're not interested. You handled it right. You said, hey, that's okay. We're going to send you more stuff. Or will you look at some more stuff? And they say, yes. I love seeing those emails, by the way, that you guys send those to me. You guys, the reason why I like to see those emails, because the goal is to build a solid relationship that they're saying, send us more. That's your goal. Now, your goal is to get that one license. I know it is. Everybody is. But if you're in the game long enough, you're going to be sending them probably something else. So don't forget that. So every call you have, even though it's a bad call or a negative call or it's a rejection call, it's still a good call if they say, send me more.
Or a different variation of your current product. That leaves the door open. Say you've made some improvements on either your product or your marketing materials. You want to leave the door open. Don't just write them off or not respond. That's for sure.
Now, we talked a little bit last week about what not to do. We're not going to go down that road again. But Dana, what do they usually ask for after that first, hey, we're kind of interested? How does it continue?
I just had it happen today or this week. Well, what's today? Wednesday, Monday. Got in touch with the company. Actually, I like to always tell the story because this company that I got into, huge pet company, been working on for a year and a half, 18 months. I looked at the first time, I looked back at my records, the first time I reached out to this company, and finally I got the guy, and they only want, he told me straight out, we only want products that have issued patents. So just, don't send me anything without an issued patent. Great. I want to know that stuff because I don't want to waste his time. So I sent him over a product, has an issued patent, sent him over the sell sheet, and he came back with 4 questions for me.
Okay.
Now,
what were they?
Well, one was, is manufacturing in place. Now you have to realize that this product that we're pitching for Gateway, he is selling it already.
Okay.
So
he's further along. Okay.
He's further along. He's already selling it. So he asked me, does he know what the cost is to manufacture? What the materials were made out of? He wanted to know something about the electrical on it. Okay. And there was a 4th question. So I had to reach out to the project manager, and he'll reach out to the client, and the client will answer the 4 questions, and then it'll get sent back to me, and then I'll send it back to my contact.
So why don't you let the contact send it over? Why do
you? We're going to hurt some feelings.
No, we don't want to do that. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. And this is the truth. And I'm an inventor, so I'm speaking from an inventor I know now, but I didn't know then, is that when a company asks 4 questions, we answer the questions specifically, short, sweet. If it's a yes or no answer, you answer it yes or no, no more. And you don't want to give them any more. So we've done this a few times where, we've reached out to our clients, and they have some simple questions, 2 questions, and they wrote back like 4 paragraphs of answers. And they didn't even in the end, I'm reading it, I read it twice. I'm like, they didn't even answer the question. And they were like simple, like yes or no questions, or yes or no answers. And so the last thing that we want to do is to shoot ourselves in the foot before we even get in the door, because they're just asking questions. So that's why we don't let our clients answer that. I may have to go and decipher the questions or the answers that the client gives me, to keep them short and sweet, because I want to keep that conversation going with this company.
Well, and I think the reason for that is that you have that emotional investment in it, and you want to give them everything right off the bat. And it's crazy because I do this, I do this every day. But when I'm reaching out for my own products, I have the same instinct. I want to give them all of this stuff. I almost want to use Gateway and have Dana pitch my product for me, because even though it's my product and I do this every day, when it's mine, I feel more compelled to, try to, for whatever reason, break all of these rules that I know I shouldn't be doing. It's wild. When it's your own, it is different.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens, Dana, if they say something that's not right? Can you make an argument? Can you say, no, you don't understand it? Or, can you go down that road a little bit? Because I'll tell you, maybe they don't get it right. Maybe they don't get it. Maybe they say something that's wrong. How do you deal with that?
We have to accept it with grace. We have to accept the no's with grace and dignity. And I would never, ever go back to a company, whether they got it or not, and rebuttal them or try to argue with them or try to convince them.
Okay.
That is not professional at all. And you know what? Sometimes I think, and some companies do this, they just write whatever to get you to go away.
Okay.
And not many, but we've seen some pretty crazy responses, Chad and I, and it's just not anything ignorant or mean or whatever, but sometimes
I don't know. I had a mean one.
you had a couple
crazy.
funny ones too, though. You had a couple funny ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. You had someone that was, what'd they say to you, Chad?
Oh, I had one, and I'm not going to put any specifics out there, obviously, but when I send over the product, this guy was convinced that he had done that before, and this guy will never license a thing, and he couldn't do this, and back in my day I did this, and I made this accomplishment and this, and nobody ever cared about it. It was just this wild tangent of how this guy's product was never going to take off, that he'd already done something like that, and he might as well just stop developing products. It was like that. It was like, and then I'm faced with, do you send, we send all these responses to our clients. Do we send this over too? Absolutely we do, because and not to hurt anybody's feelings, but you need to get both sides of it. There's two extremes when you're reaching out. So you got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah, you guys, I just want to reiterate, I'm going to say this over and over again. When someone passes on your product, sometimes you just haven't convinced them. It's usually 4 or 5 things that could happen. Number one, maybe it's just not a good fit. Okay, I get it. Number one, maybe they look at it and for some reason they don't see the point of difference. Maybe there's a lot of competition and you haven't really highlighted that point of difference. And I see that all the time with sell sheets. Sometimes you have to go a little bit further and do a second sell sheet just to show them how yours is different than if it's a crowded category. Show them why yours is different compared to similar ideas. The third thing could also be cost, right? Maybe they look at it, and I know we have a tendency to build Cadillacs, not VWs. And they might look at it and go, that's not going to hit the price point. Okay. Or maybe the last thing is just timing's not great. So what does that all boil down to? If there could be 5 reasons, step back, like Dana said, redo your sell sheet, redo your thought process, and then go back at them again with something a little bit new and improved. I cannot stress that enough, because we see a lot of ideas get licensed the second time, not the first time. And always like, why is that?
Well, and I don't want that to be confused with what, Dana said. She's right. We're never going to argue with them when it's a no. We're never going to argue with them. But if there's concerns that they bring forward that you can address, you can absolutely fix those and come back to them. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because they will we don't ever expect feedback from a company. And I'll even say that, if you're not interested, just let me know. Feedback is never expected, but appreciated. And sometimes I've gotten some really long, good feedback from a company, from many companies, and I know Chad has too. But in general, I think, probably 75% of the responses when they're not interested is just it's not a right fit. I'm always a little like when they say it's not a right fit at this time, it may be okay to say, well, if this time isn't good, when would be a good time? And really you just have to,
I
do you,
when I ask, it's really funny when you ask someone when's a good time. Oh, it's always a good time. I don't believe that for a heartbeat, you guys.
yeah.
It's not true. There is a cycle to it. And the way I try to look at it, if there's a trade show, the major trade show for a company, find out when it is and then go back at least 9 months, 9, 10 months. Give them
Hey,
some time if they like it.
Yeah, I got a good question here. Quick one. Quick question, quick answer. When we contact someone, should we mention inventRight?
I don't, you can. I don't think they're going to know. I mean,
I don't even mention it.
yeah.
I don't
Come on,
mention
you guys don't mention how great we are.
No,
You
sorry.
know, let me tell you
I
what
mean, to each other, yeah, but
let me let me tell you what really breaks my heart, you guys. When we first started this program,
No.
I thought the strategy was to go after them and explain what we do, how long we've been in business, and how great we are. They don't care.
Nope.
They just don't, right? And they don't care about what you've done in the past. They care about what you're doing today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's really important, because some of us, when we're first starting out, I haven't done it before and I really don't have a track record, and they're going to find out I really don't know what I'm doing. They don't care. What are you showing me today? But you do need to be professional, right? That's what they do care about. And if you're not, they're going to walk away from you. Okay.
here's a good question from the comments that can jump off of what you just said, Stephen. So this Toronto Mike says, jumping the gun. I contacted 2 different companies today. First time saying the words product developer, but I'm well in advance of being ready to show my ideas. Am I jumping the gun even if it's just for feelers? So am I ready to reach out to companies even though my marketing materials aren't ready? I got varying answers for that. If it's just for feelers and it's not your big companies, yeah, get your feet wet. Reach out and fail first on the ones that you don't want to win on. But if you don't have marketing materials ready to show them, I would not be reaching out in any serious way, because when they say yes and you don't have anything, or you need to wait 3 weeks, that's a problem.
Yeah, we've got a project now that Dana and I are involved in, and the company wants to see a prototype, and we still don't have the prototype. And the days start to add up, don't they? And you just don't want to keep, you're trying to make it perfect. You're trying to make it perfect. And before you know it, weeks and weeks go by and you've lost a little momentum. So it's okay, but I think you should be a little bit further along. I also believe, and I think Chad is right, if you're just starting out, I think it's a good idea to check the water a little bit. I'll give you another tip. Why don't you check the water before you do all the work? Why don't you reach out sometimes, maybe not the biggest guys, but just, are you open to work with inventors?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a bad idea, because I'll tell you, if you pick a category which is not inventor friendly and you cannot get into anybody, you might think twice about filing intellectual property, building prototypes, and spending a lot of money. And we don't, and inventRight, we have a 10-step system. And number 8 is when you reach out to companies. But what I'm telling you now, if you want to save yourself a little heartache, make step number 8, number 1, when you're studying the marketplace, reach out to the companies to make sure they're going to be open. So when you're ready, you don't find yourself hitting a brick wall going, hey, where's everybody?
Well, and if it's your very first call and you're worried that they pick up the phone and you're going to freeze, call a company that's don't even use your list. I got a funny story about that. When I first started out, I was nervous about calling companies. So I called a company to ask them if they were open to reviewing a product that I didn't even have. I just made it up. It was just totally not even a thing. You know what I mean? If they'd have said, yep, send the marketing materials, I would have just hung up the phone and went about my day. but it wasn't on my list of what I was actually trying to do. So, I mean, you can get your feet wet. I mean, Worst they're going to do is hang up on you, or you can hang up on them.
Yeah, I mean, call random, just find random companies, go to the store, pick up some products, look at the back of the package and call some random companies just to get practice.
Then you get over that fear of, and then like in that comment, he said, my first time using product developer. Absolutely. Get used to using that language. They don't know that that this is your first time doing it. Own that, own it. So, yeah, I'm a product developer. I'm interested to seeing if you're open to looking at products. Get that down. Just let it roll off, get to the point where it just rolls.
Here's a very interesting question that, because we're live streaming to a couple different platforms, right? LinkedIn and YouTube. I'm not quite sure where this came in, but I think this is really interesting. This person is selling on Amazon. And, usually when you're selling on Amazon, you probably have an idea that other people are selling too. It's probably not unique. It's probably, white labeling a product. But he's asking us, you guys, and this is really interesting. He's asking, I'm looking to learn about perhaps buying rights to other designs. What he's actually trying to say, how do I contact you guys because, think about it. I'm on Amazon, I got a platform, and I have to buy the generic stuff. What about something new? What about something different? So we've never really talked about that, but that might be something you might look at. You might go on Amazon and find a great seller, and you might realize, hey, maybe I'll target that guy. Right? Maybe I don't have to go after a big well-known brand. Maybe I find a guy that's doing very well on Amazon. They do some volume. And you might be able to not only license it to him, but maybe somebody else too. You might be able to do a couple of guys. And maybe that's enough, because I'll tell you, those guys are pretty aggressive. If you're selling on Amazon, you're aggressive, right? And you know how the game is played. And I'll tell you, they're going to be a lot faster than some of these companies you're dealing with. Some of these guys are really slow. The guys on Amazon, they're not slow. They move pretty quickly. That's a great question. Let's see, what else we got here?
I saw a good one in here. I can't find it.
I like this. What does it mean when this is a little off topic, but we'll answer it anyway. From Matt Miller. What does it mean when a toy company wants you to go through a toy broker? Oh, that's horrible. That's absolutely in the past. So let me tell you what's happened. In the past, the toy companies didn't want to deal with people that starting out. And so they wanted you to go through a toy broker. So there was a list. In fact, you can still find a list of toy brokers. There'll be a list of people. What they do, they look at your idea, they polish it up, they charge you a bunch of money, then they pitch it to a company. If they take it, they get 50% of whatever they get. They've been doing it for years. Now, the issue with toy brokers today, you don't need a toy broker because all these people out there pounding the door looking at ideas. There's pitches you can go to. You can get to all these toy companies now. Why do you need a toy broker?
Toy companies are easy to get into.
Oh, yeah.
Really easy. So I think toy brokers are dinosaurs. What they're saying, Matt, what they're saying to you is they don't want to work with you. That's what they're saying. We don't want to work with you because we can tell you're new. That's what they're saying. So find another company or up your game or whatever you're doing, you need to improve a little bit, I think. That's what they're saying to you.
Speaking of being new, here's a question for you from the comments. Steven says, my question was any other tips on reaching out initially? Like, what does a first conversation sound like? As a new product developer with no experience, how do we sound professional? What words need to come out in order to, one, get the right person, and two, ask if they are open to licensing products? That first conversation is rocky, huh?
Yeah, those are the right words. I mean, hi, my name's Dana. I have, in fact, if I'm talking to a customer service person, I'm going to say, I have a question for you that you may not hear very often, because they're probably not going to hear it that how many times it's customer service. Their customers are calling them, not product developers. And I'll ask them, do you happen to know if XYZ company is open to outside innovation from independent product developers? There's a pause. There's always a pause there because they don't know what I'm talking about. And then asking if there's someone I can talk to in product development or marketing or sales. And they might just give me a generic, we can't get those emails out. Odds are, I can tell you, if you call a company, you are going to talk to the gatekeeper. And they are just like talking to any other customer service person that you would call anywhere. They're there to direct traffic. That's it.
But Dana, what you just said is what we've been teaching on inventRight for 25 years. You know, when you said it that way, it's really simple, you guys. The gatekeeper is not going to know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of explain it simply, and they still don't know what to do
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. I would have, and I have it right here and I've been doing this for what, 8 years, and I have it right here on a little yellow piece of paper. Well, there's a lot of words, but there's like one sentence that I can say, you know, well, because they'll be like, if they ever say, well, what's licensing? Well, it's when an inventor and a company enters into a licensing agreement, the company gains the rights to produce, manufacture, and market the product under their brand, and giving the inventor a reasonable royalty once the product goes to market. That's what I say to them. That's a really easy way to explain to a gatekeeper what licensing is so that they can understand if I'm doing it or not. And we are recording this, so you can go back and listen to the recording if you want to write that down.
You know what else you could say? If they ask, you might say, look, I probably just need to speak to someone in the marketing department. Can you switch me on over there?
Yeah.
Well, and I think the biggest point is no matter what you do say, the next one will be better. And then the one after that'll be better. And the one after that'll be better. We've been doing this for years. I still say crazy stuff on accident and calls. You know what I mean? You're people, and these are people. They get it. You know what I mean? It sounds all professional and it seems tense. It's not. Usually when you mess up, it kind of lightens the mood. You know what I mean? They realize they're talking to a person. You realize you're talking to a person.
So I had this happen today. I called a company and they said, "Oh, I'll send you over to Chris. He'll be able to help you." But when they sent me over, the person's name was Chris, but it was a female voice on the voicemail, and I'm all confused now. I don't know, is Chris a he, is Chris a she? And I was looking, and I started to like say something like that, like, oh my, you know, and then I just got off the phone and said, God, I'm an idiot. What did I just say to that person? Right? Because I got thrown off because I thought I was going to talk to a man, and and so I wasn't even sure if I was talking to the right person. The first name matched, the last name didn't. So, you know, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to screw up.
I've plainly called women sir on accident on calls. So rolls out, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like, what? Like, oh, sorry. You know, it's just, and then you just keep going, you know what I mean? You just roll with it.
You guys, we want to get down to the bones here. How do I get to a licensing agreement here? I mean, how do I go from, hey, do you like it? I answer a couple questions. Hey, how do we get a deal? I mean, I think what I've realized, you guys, over the years, you're probably not going to be negotiating royalty rates, the third call. You're probably not going to negotiate at all until they say to you, we're interested. And you're going to want them to say that on the first call, and they're probably not going to say that. You want them to say how much they love your idea. They're not going to say that either. But I can tell you a couple tips that when you do get them on the first call, I would not make it about you. I would make it about them. And I would ask, tell me about what you like about my idea. Tell me what was it about it that you thought your customers would really like? But there's one question you have to always ask. How important is intellectual property? You know why I want to ask that question? I want to ask that question so if they say it's important, I can get them to pay for it later when I negotiate the licensing agreement. They don't see it at first because they're going to say it's important. I'll go, oh, okay. So when I ask for an advance, I'm not going to ask for an advance. I'm going to ask them to pay for the intellectual property. That's so important to them.
And that's why you were all playing nice through all the little easy stuff through the beginning. So that way, when you get to the end and you get to the big stuff, then you got some.
Yeah, that's a tip, you guys, that seems to work every time, but you don't think about it. Now, also what I've realized too, that if you ask them what they need and what they're looking for and what's important to them, that's going to allow you to always come back later to make sure whatever you want out of them, you could probably get because you know what they need If you don't know what they need or what they want, how do you negotiate? You're going to miss the target because you don't know what every company's got a different goal in mind. So how do you go from, hey, first, second call to a licensing agreement? I think you just have to keep them on the line, ask them what they think about your product, ask them your point of difference, how important is IP, and then just have a casual conversation. And I think it's just getting to know them a little bit. But if they want it, trust me, they're going to ask you, what do you want?
Well, Stephen, that's why I think you can continue to have these live sessions because that's multiple sessions in itself. Most of the time we're on here talking about how to get into the companies and how you get interest and all that. Okay, well then the hard work is not over. Now you have all of these other hurdles and challenges and hiccups and all of these things that you have to go through. And that's why it is great to have a reference like inventRight, because whether you watch the videos and you get to a certain point, you are going to run into a point where you're going to need help. You just are.
Yeah. I'd like to kind of address that to the question, and this is something that you always want to keep in mind. So you reach out to a company, they say, yes, we're open. Yes, send me over the sell sheet. You send it over. They come back and say, wow, this is really interesting. Okay, we're going to show it to our team and we're going to get manufacturing quotes. And then, and that could take who knows how long. It is so important that as the inventor of the product that you constantly stay at the top of the pile with them, because they have a million things going on over here. And if you're not at the top of the pile, meaning, emailing them every 30 days, hey, because we've seen it happen where the inventor is talking to the company and then the company gets super busy and the inventor stops following up and then everything just falls flat.
Now, wait a minute. Should I stop submitting my idea? Because I got one. I can feel
it. They're the one. They're the
one.
Experience
with that.
Yeah. We all have experience with that. No, you keep submitting your idea to different companies. Just because somebody wants to see your sell sheet doesn't mean anything at this point.
Okay.
Doesn't mean anything.
So
it just means they want to see your sell sheet.
Don't get too happy.
Yeah. You can't help but get happy. You can't help it. It's like, okay, keep your feet firm. You can put your head in the sky, keep your feet firmly planted on the ground, hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Well, right. And I was going to touch on that too, because we make it, it is convoluted. It is a long process and all of that. And everybody understands that the end goal is to license your product, but you have to celebrate those milestones. Like, oh, I liked your sell sheet, or, hey, I'd like to see a sample. It may not go past that point, but each one of those gets you closer and closer. I've sent out multiple samples where I've gotten interest, and you have to celebrate those milestones with your people or whoever your peers are that you're doing this with.
Hey, real quick, hey Frank, if someone asks for you to go to a distributor, they don't know that you're not going to manufacture. Most likely they don't understand licensing. You might want to say, no, I'm not a manufacturer. I want to license it. That's what I would do, Frank. That's a quick one. Let's see, what else we have here? I followed your advice, the party game time design. I followed your advice and ripped myself off 2 times and mentioned to the owner of the company, who was very impressed with my video of my idea. I'm not quite sure I would tell him that, the party game time designer. I followed your advice and I ripped myself off 2 times and I mentioned it to the owner. You guys, one thing you have to be very careful of. When you come out of the gate real strong about you have a patented product, you know what you're telling them? Watch out. If you do something wrong, I'm going to be hard. I'm not going to be the person you want to deal with. I would never go too strong at that. That's why I tell everybody on your marketing material, you put patented or patent pending down at the very bottom small. Don't play your cards about what you own yet. Let that kind of unfold a little bit. But you guys, the strategy about ripping yourself off, in my opinion, that's just telling you that when you file good intellectual property, You're filing not only stuff that will protect your invention, but you will protect the innovation. It's broader than that. So if someone tries to get around you, you've already thought about it and you put it in your application. But I wouldn't tell someone that you're going to out trick them in case if they try to get around you, you got them. I don't think I'd go that way. I think you're sending a message to them that you're going to be tough. I think so.
Here's a question that I proposed to you last week after last week's meeting, Stephen. So we talked about the benefits of being flexible with this stuff, with these people. What times would you say are best to stick to your guns and make sure that you do have in your agreement? What things do you not want to be flexible on? What things are important that you don't want to get away with? Like we're talking about, you know, minimum guarantees and stuff like that. Is that something that you would want to stick to your guns on and make sure is in your contract?
You guys, I said no to a company. The company I really want, I told them no this week. I want them. I've been playing with them for 3 years and I told them no. And it felt so good. It just felt like, in fact, in the new book I'm writing, I have a chapter saying no. I never thought in a million years I'd feel so good about saying someone no. But you know, I said it in such a way, I read it back, what they wanted. I read it back to them. And it's so ridiculous. And we can have more conversations about negotiations. I'm getting off track here a little bit. But you really have to do your homework. You really have to have a good grasp of what's going on. And you need to have a little leverage. And that little leverage is always make sure you're working with somebody else. That's why you always want to be pitching, and don't stop pitching once you get one on the line. Because I tell you, once you get that one fish on the line, there's a good chance it's going to come off. Okay. I've been hearing that because of the tariffs, companies aren't looking for new products.
Oh, can I address that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so over here, somebody asked about what was Gateway. You can go into our website, find it on you can go to our YouTube, type in Gateway, and it'll tell you all about it. So Chad, Brad, Claudia, and myself, it's what we do. We call companies, we email companies, we LinkedIn message companies, we leave voicemails, we Facebook them, however we can get in, all week long. That's what we do. On average, we'll get into between 10 to 15 new companies a week. Now, we do not hear, and Chad will confirm this because we've already discussed this topic of when a company comes back and tells us, no, we're not open because of the T word. We want to know it. We want to know it. We have a big email thread we start every Monday. We want to know it. We're just not hearing it. We're just not hearing it. I think since this whole tariff thing started, maybe there has been 1, 2 companies that have used that word and not just said right now, we're just going to hold off right now until we see how everything plays out.
Yeah.
Other than that, companies are still open. They still have to innovate. They're going to get through it.
Well,
So-
yeah. I mean, Amazon's not going to stop anytime soon.
No.
I've gotten the response a couple times, but I've also gotten the other side of it. I've gotten the response that said because of the tariffs that they were open to looking at new avenues and new options and things like that. So maybe you have a product that's manufactured elsewhere or something, you know, maybe it's not always a negative thing. And, you know, until the world ends, we're going to act as though it intends to keep on spinning.
Yeah.
Here's a good question from Kathy. Why do I care about costs? Shouldn't they figure out the costs themselves? Yes, they're going to have to. But that takes some work. So what I'm suggesting is if you can tell them that it's going to cost the same as existing products or maybe even a little lower, even though you don't know, I think it helps move the ball down the court. You guys, did I just tell a fib there? You guys, I think it's okay to look at your product, look at another product on the market and kind of guess it's going to be pretty similar. That's why I think it's also important to design your ideas in such a way that you don't add a lot of bells and whistles right now. I think you want to make it a little bit simpler. But Kathy, that's what that's all about. They have to do it themselves, but if you can do a little bit of the work, that won't be an obstacle.
You speak
It would be nice for a veteran to hook up with the newbies that live in the same area. Us newbies can learn a lot. You know what's really crazy about that? One of our coaches, Courtney, used to do that. At inventRight, Courtney would ask her students to come visit her. Can you believe that? She never told us either. And they would come visit her and they would go in a room and Courtney would show them how to call. Courtney's amazing. You guys, who's had Courtney? Anybody here has had Courtney as a coach? Anybody here? Yeah, she's not your normal person. She really loves the whole process. But Dana, you've done that with Andrew too, haven't you?
Yeah, we have a session in our for our inventRight members and alumni members every Wednesday for 2 hours. We jump on a Zoom, open up the Zoom, we kind of talk for 10 minutes. The room gets locked so nobody can jump in and interrupt us. We all mute ourselves and we go to work. So it's not like we're doing it together, but we're doing it all muted, but everybody's working and they're doing whatever they need to get done. Like maybe they need to make their list of companies, maybe they need to research companies, maybe they need to email people, call people, LinkedIn message people. So for about 90 minutes straight, we all just work. It's like a study hall.
Yeah. Hey, Karen's got a quick question here. Should you say product developer, inventor, scientist?
Yeah, I saw
Guys, I
that.
think this has kind of gone back and forth a couple different ways I've seen. There's a day where I never wanted to say inventor.
Mm-mm.
It was a red flag that I am going to drive you crazy.
Yeah,
But then it became real popular for a while.
Mm.
You know, Shark Tank and all these, even IBM was doing Inventor of the Year and Intel did the same thing. So they're really highlighting inventors. But now I think it's kind of come back a little again. Dana, do you use the word inventor?
never.
How about you, Chad?
So I don't use the word inventor. I typically use product developer, but I will say that I do change up some of the things that I say based on the categories that I'm reaching out to.
Yep.
So like if I'm reaching out to a chemical company, I'm not saying that I have a new product. I have a new formulation for you or whatever, do your homework about their terminology. You want to be trying to speak in their language for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say, and again, I'm the same as Chad. I will say product developer or product designer, depending on the product. I'm working on a product right now that I think it just seems to me like product designer is a better a better description of what our client is, because it's the design of the product that makes it so cool. So again, it's just, playing it. This is just what's difficult for inventors is that when you come onto these and you hear Chad say one thing and I say one thing and Steven says one thing, it can be so confusing. And this is where just doing it over and over over again, and you just kind of learn, the feeling of what to do.
I just want one way to do this. You guys confuse the heck out of me. You mean there's more than one way to do this?
We want my honest answer. I think inventor has so much stereotypes associated with it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. The movies that I watched growing up, you say inventor, you think of a tinkerer who is fumbling around. You know what I mean? And also, I look at the difference that I look at between an inventor and a product developer is a product developer understands how to make it a business, how to make money off of it.
Yeah.
That's the connotation that I see it as personally.
Okay.
And that probably comes from you, Stephen. Honestly, from watching inventRight all those times or whatever, and just hearing the phrases product developer over and over again.
Yeah, you guys, I want to say something. Thank you for saying that, Chad. We have noticed over the years, Andrew, myself, and my team, that most organizations fall short. They might teach kids how to invent. Even some of the colleges, they might teach them how to pitch, but they never go far as that how to get a deal. And that's really the point that we've hit upon at inventRight is really how do you actually get it done? And I'm glad you pointed that out, because at the end of the day, it's great to work on stuff, but if it doesn't produce income for you, it's a hobby.
Mhm.
and I love it too much to be a hobby. You know, I want to make a living from it. Okay, so we got one from Cynthia here, and I think it's a good one. She's talking about, what if I just call a company and ask them, send me your product submission form to me?
Mm.
Like in the mail?
By email.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
all companies you reach out to have a product submission form, Dana?
No, no, I wouldn't even assume.
I don't know. I run into that. I've got.
They sometimes they do, and it's a portal. They're going to send you to a portal.
That's what it is.
I've never had a paper or somebody send me. Although, I mean, some companies will say, yes, we're open, but before you can send this, I'm going to send you something to read and fill out, sign.
How
That
common is
The
that?
submission
that
agreement.
happens.
How
And then I've
common?
got some supporting data. I've sent over, this just happened today, or maybe it's today, yesterday, but I got what we call a submission agreement, which is basically their version of an NDA. And then you send that back. But then I've also gotten a request for, while they're reviewing that, more information, so
Okay.
I've been able to relay that over. But
Yeah, I'm more
Yeah.
familiar when the portals do that for some reason, because they're getting so many, they have the way of tracking it and making sure they don't get in trouble too.
I would not just assume that they have a submission process. I
Okay.
would ask them, and I've done this before, is XYZ company open outside? If so, could you explain your submission process, to me? I'm
yeah,
I'm looking for
they
more.
have one until
I will actually ask, I'm looking for more information about what XYZ company. Are you open to outside ideas from independent product developers? If so, what is your submission process? If not, please, and then I always say this too. If not, please let me know by not open. And I do it in quotes. So and they'll do it too. They'll just probably copy and paste not open, boom, send it over to me. I just had that happen today with a company. That was actually on a Facebook chat. I was chatting with, or on their online chat.
I love this one question. It tells me that this guy doesn't know anything about inventRight.
Mm.
And you know what's really frustrating about that? I think we're pretty good at marketing, but we're really not. And when I get these questions, I actually love it. He's asking, the IR team has been mentioned numerous times. Are you guys in the same city, state, or country, or kind of like, what is that? You guys, inventRight was created by Andrew Krauss and Stephen Key over 25 years ago. We're online educational coaching, mentoring program that if you have ideas, we're there to help. And you can go to inventright.com. There's my pitch and only pitch tonight. There you go. Okay. All right. That always embarrasses me. So
Well,
we're doing such a great
that,
job.
no,
Come on, man.
it's a
Okay.
big wide word out there. We haven't hit everybody yet.
All right, we got a lot more questions here. What else have we got here? Let's go through them.
Manufacturers
Uh, when talking with a potential company, do you mention the competitors by name looking at it? No.
hell no.
no,
Don't do that.
no.
Oh, come on. I want to leverage that. You guys better get off
No.
the stick because I have your competitors looking at my idea now.
Never gonna go the way you want it to.
So when they do ask if someone's looking at it, what do you say?
Why? No,
Yeah.
I'm
They ask. They ask. I don't think I've ever been asked.
But they do ask, I would say this, I'm under NDA. I can't
Yep.
disclose who's looking
I
at it.
don't think I've ever had anybody ask either. I think that once it gets further along, obviously they're going to want an exclusive. They're going to want an exclusive agreement. But I think that it's probably common knowledge to them, or at least it should be, that you're smart enough to not just be reaching out to one company.
Yeah, no kidding. I
Yeah.
think it's known that if you're a pro, you're reaching out to more. Let's see.
Is there a way? There's a question. Is there a way to find companies outside the U.S.?
Oh, yeah.
It's the internet. Like I'm working on a client's product today. I swear every company's in the UK. Every company's in the UK. So I'm going to be calling the UK tomorrow a lot.
I love this. My sister works in customer service. There's
Yeah.
no channel for information to go to in the company. They only use scripted responses. Of course. There's no way they're going to know what you're talking about. Yeah, so you have to get past that and kind of, you know what it is? I always try to lead them. Maybe someone here could help me. And they're most likely to help you too. Or better yet, find someone in the marketing department before you call and drop that name that you want to speak to that person.
Pretend like you already know who you're looking for and that you're supposed to be there. Just burn right past them.
Let's see.
Someone's asking if you can do one of these lives and go over some of the basics lingo of licensing. I can probably say buy one of Stephen's books, not that we plug the books here, but you go through, there's a lot of language, and just keep absorbing everything you can. It'll all sink in. I didn't come in 8 years ago understanding anything. I didn't even know how to spell licensing, you know? I mean,
you know what you can do? Go to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And ask them, tell me everything there is to know about product licensing.
I don't know that it would say it the way that you do, though, either necessarily through inventRight. I mean, that'd be a good episode. There is a lot of lingo that we kind of take for granted. You know what I mean?
Follow Stephen Key at inventRight. He's been doing it for 25 years.
Right, yeah, right. That is what I said.
Yeah, I don't know how we could do that, honestly, with, I don't know, somebody would leave the dictionary.
So we talked about this before. You leave voicemails all the time, right?
Me, all the time. Oh, all the time. In fact, I got into a company last week, left a voicemail. She called me back. On the voicemail, I said my cell number's 304, but 67, whatever. You can text me if you like. So she called and left a voicemail. I didn't get it. She texted me, and we texted back and forth and made a time to connect. She gave me, I explained what I was doing. She gave me her email address. I just got an email from her today that her team really likes the product, and they want to know what the next steps are.
You guys, real quick too.
Voicemails work.
If you have more questions, I know you do. We had a lot of really new questions tonight, and you probably haven't watched any of our other videos. If you want to watch more of this content, the Licensing Live Playbook, just go to inventRightTV.com. We have them up there. And I think we've done 4 or 5 of them. And that might be helpful too. If you guys
InventRight TV on YouTube, Stephen, not inventRightTV.com. InventRight TV on YouTube.
I always like someone correcting me. That's
that's
I didn't know you were still here, James.
I thought it was my wife, but it wasn't. It was James. Wow. Okay. Thank you, James. You know what else you can do? It's usually Andrew, by the way, that's corrected me, but he's not here. You can always go to Stephen Key at inventRight.com. Send me a note. That's my direct email. If someone puts that in there, that'd be great. And you can always give me a call. I'm going to give my telephone number. Now, you guys, here's the deal about my telephone number. If you send me a text message, do it. Send me a picture of yourself. Tell me that you're on this and you got a question. I'll answer it. Not a problem. And my number is this, 209-480-8603. And someone better call it right now to see if I'm fooling you guys or not.
Watch James.
I don't have it. I'm sorry. It's plugged. It's downstairs. I don't have it. That's 209-480-8603. And you guys, you know why I can give it out? Because you guys are so polite. You guys are really polite, and you don't bombard me with a lot of questions because we have all the answers. But you guys are polite, and I do appreciate that so much. Because at the end of the day, you know it is. We're all in the same boat here, you guys. Right. And it's really important that we get your ideas out there so people can share them and they can use them, and you can influence the next group of people, and you can tell some remarkable stories. So before we end it, Eric, I see you.
Hey, I want to say real quick, if anybody wants to talk privately with me or Sylvia, we can explain what inventRight does. You can go to our website, inventRight.com, and find at the bottom of any of the pages or somewhere, book a consult, and just open up the calendar and book a call with one of us, and we'll explain what we do and how we do it and why we do it.
I got a big question. Eric,
now I feel obligated, and I'm not giving out my number, so don't call.
Eric, did you pitch your product yet?
Not yet, Stephen, because
You're killing me.
I know I got Mojo pitch in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Nice.
So
Will
I got
you come
everybody.
after
I
you
got
pitch it?
about
Will you
20
come back and
companies.
share with everybody how it all goes? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd be happy to, for sure.
I love your idea. I think it's great. I think it's simple. I think it's pretty darn cool.
Thanks, Stephen. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you.
It's so simple. It's almost like you got to be kidding me. That thing actually flies like that. I mean, I was like, that flies. Yes, it flies extremely well, and it's big and it's fun and it's cool for kids. All right, you guys, we're going to stop at 6 o'clock, right on time. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Andrew. But you're not really Andrew there. You're James hiding because Andrew's on vacation.
James from above.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you next week. We're going to keep on digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And we're going to talk all about licensing agreements, how to get those guys to sign it, and how to get them to pay you, and how to keep it going. All right? Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.